Here we're going to go in and take a look at the basics of SharePoint Designer and just walk around the interface so we have a better feel for it. I've got the Business Intelligence Center up and running, and I'm going to go over here into the dashboard library. And now I have the two dashboards as we've seen down in here, and I'll come in and I'm going to select Student Demo, and you see page 1 cleverly named. I'll pull down my JavaScript chevron here and select Edit in SharePoint Designer, and then I'll get at the usual pop-up that says the usual security, and I'm going to say OK and allow SharePoint Designer to start. And while it's doing that, I'm going to pause so it'll take a few seconds. Yeah. Okay, SharePoint Designer is up. You'll notice up here it's loading. And now SharePoint Designer is fully loaded. And we're in here and we're looking at this dashboard that we created over in Dashboard Designer. So now in the SharePoint Designer interface here, so that you can look at it, up here we've got the little quick launch, quick access toolbar down here for my usual stuff down here, so I can go in and I can click save, etc. Refresh, and you see the little tooltips pop on up and down here and put this down. You see I can take a look at the previewing in the browsers for Internet Explorer and Mozilla, and I can also edit the browser list down here if I want to look at other objects. Just as a word of note, when you're creating dashboards and you're using performance point services to create the dashboard, you're going to want to use the decomposition tree, as it is really the showstopper for analytics within performance point within SharePoint. The decomp tree is going to require Silverlight to be installed, so you're really going to want to restrict that to Internet Explorer. That said, as we come on across here, we have the fluid interface, or actually the ribbon, as I drew it all the way across up here. And the ribbon is context sensitive as I move on across. I can come down here and you can see I've got the different sections down here like this. So I've got these sections. These are actually groups. As you see, they're separated on out in here to make things a little easier for you to find. If I pull down, for example, the spelling one, under the spelling I have different options, etc. And here my editing, find, select, replace, etc. is again, here's my preview and browser, which was the same as I looked at up in here as the quick access, and my formatting, etc. Dropping down over here on the left, I have my navigation pane. I can come in and look at all files and see all the files that are in the site that I'm currently connected to, etc. Come in here and take a look at the workflows. I've got a publishing workflow installed down here. Site pages, I've created a couple site pages down here just to fool around with and call them one right column, one left column, or one header left and one right column. As I come through and select it, I can go through and pick it, and now I'm down here, and as soon as I click on it, by the way, you see the permissions as I drill on down. As we talked about earlier in this module, SharePoint Designer 2010 is much more secure than SharePoint Designer 2007 was. To edit within SharePoint Designer, by default, you're going to either need full control, that is, you're in the owners group, or you need to be in the designers group. All those permissions really are beyond scope, but they're controlled by the farm and by the collection administrator. So now continuing on down here in this different site objects, you can see the master pages, and I can pick any of these things as I come down and take a look. Okay, and by the way, this, let me get back over here. Let me find one, site pages. Section down in here, I've selected site pages, and this section down here, which we looked at earlier, this is called the mini gallery as you come on down. By the way, down here is your little status icon. That'll tell you who's logged on, and if you can see that, you're logged on as system, which is really what we're logged on in as farm administrator and also as collection administrator. And this installation was done just so that we did not get any access denied. So normally you're not going to see that. You're going to see some kind of a user ID as you come through and take a look at that. That's always a handy little thing to come down and see what you're logged on as, because that'll directly relate over to the different permissions that you have. Over here is where the task pane would go. If we come in and take a look at that. Okay, I paused there for a second so you didn't have to wait for it to fire on up. But I've got a site page open down here, and I'm over here in my task pane, and as you can see, I've got my events that I can code down here, and I've also got my attributes, which as I move on through, you can see that I'm going to get different task panes down in here. Here she's cleared on out, and let's go ahead and take a look at it. And now my that fired on up. If I come in here to workflows, if I have one loaded down in here, I can edit the workflow, and I can move down there and take a look at it, etc. And I can look at my workflow settings from there again. So again, if you're familiar with any of the Microsoft tools that we work with now, we tend to have the navigation objects over here on the left. If you remember in Dashboard Designer, we call this the workspace browser. And then we have the different tabs as we move on across, which is typical of the Microsoft interfaces. Notice as I move on through here, the ribbon change. See, depending on what I'm doing down here, I'm over in a workflow, and I have different settings down here as compared to an ASPX page, preview in browser, etc. And as I move on across, now I'm looking at a different type of a page, an ASPX page, as I have down in here. Like it's the same an ASPX page, but it's just a web part page, and I have different settings. Now right column is the same as just a different named ASPX page, different web part page. And now I come over again to workflows, and the workflow I have down here, I can look at content types and do these different associations, etc. And there I've just come in, now I'm looking at the entire site, the business intelligence site. And again, I'm coming down here like this, and you see the ribbon has changed. So in summary, don't let a SharePoint Designer be intimidating. It's really a very, very powerful tool, but once you get the hang of it, it's really pretty easy to work within.